Let's actually look into some of the most common misconceptions about recruiters, where they might come from, and why they're probably not true. Hey, and welcome back. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Preston. I'm a professional recruiter in the technology industry. The rise of technology and the use of the internet to source, contact, interview, and hire candidates has made the role of the recruiter more important than ever before. Recruiting has been around for a long time, but it was only recently that it has grown into this massive online industry we know today. But despite its size and importance in today's tumultuous employment industry, there are still many misconceptions about recruiters that float around. Some are minor, while some may keep an organization or company from working with third-party recruiters altogether. But recruiters like me, as well as our satisfied clients, know that recruiting has become an incredibly valuable service, especially as more and more online hiring platforms appear each day. To pass up the opportunity to work with a recruiter based on misconceptions about the role is a big mistake. In today's video, we're going to list some of the most common misconceptions about third-party recruiters, recruiting agencies, independent recruiters. For people who've been watching for a while, this may come as no surprise, but if you're a job hunter or a hiring manager who has reservations about working with a recruiter, make sure you pay close attention to this video. Do you have any biases or misconceptions about recruiters that you aren't aware of? I hope this video helps you challenge some of those preconceived notions and you'll consider working with a recruiter in the future. But before we get started, please consider supporting a fellow recruiter. Give us a like, subscribe, click that bell. Really means a lot. Before we get started, I do think it's important to acknowledge that many people's overall negative view of recruiters comes from those less than stellar ones that spam you with irrelevant job openings on employment platforms, especially LinkedIn. As recruiting becomes more prevalent and accessible, there has been an influx of inexperienced and unfortunately low quality recruiters reaching out to potential candidates. Since modern recruiting puts such a heavy emphasis on passive talent, that is, candidates who aren't actively searching for a job, many of their contacts aren't at all interested in what they're offering. This quickly sours their opinions on recruiters, even ones who try their best to provide a valuable, necessary service. That's part of the reason I began this YouTube channel journey. My hope is that by providing new and struggling recruiters with tips, tricks, and tutorials and advice about the industry, their practices, processes, overall communication will improve and the overall public perception of recruiters will lighten. Hopefully. But I also know it's important to hit the nail on the head, so to speak. So without further ado, let's actually look into some of the most common misconceptions about recruiters, where they might come from, and why they're probably not true. Misconceptions. Let's start out with a broad misconception, less about recruiters as individuals and more about recruiting industry as a whole. Recruiters just aren't necessary. Considering just how accessible hiring platforms are these days, one of the biggest and most damaging misconceptions about recruiters is that they're completely unnecessary. After all, anyone can log into Indeed or LinkedIn and post or find a job. Hiring managers may think they can save money by taking on the responsibilities of a recruiter themselves. They also may assign them to another HR employee who may or may not have experience with sourcing and engaging candidates. While this sometimes results in a good hire, more often than not, you can be easily overwhelmed with the additional responsibilities of posting and maintaining multiple job posts, scheduling and conducting interviews, and completing the necessary paperwork on top of all of your regular activities. On the other hand, job seekers may avoid working with a recruiter because they can apply to jobs on their own, directly from their computer or even cell phone. This can be effective for lower level, hourly positions, but if you're an experienced candidate with specialized qualifications, you shouldn't overlook recruiters as they often have jobs available that you won't find anywhere else. In short, there's a reason that the recruiting industry is booming, and it's not because recruiters are unnecessary. On the contrary, with so many different employment avenues available online, they're more necessary than ever before. Recruiters have no influence in hiring decisions. While recruiters certainly have plenty of cut and dry responsibilities in order to keep their business up and running, their role as a mediator between a candidate and a hiring manager can make the recruiter's job seem a little abstract. It can be hard to tell whether or not they have any actual influence on who gets hired. As such, many job seekers and hiring managers underestimate the role of a recruiter. It's true that recruiters typically don't have the final say in a hiring decision, but they act as a filter between the hiring party and the candidates to ensure only the most valuable connections are made. So they certainly have an influx on who ultimately gets considered for the role. If you're a job seeker, remember that the interactions you have with the recruiter are just as important as your eventual interviews with the employer themselves. If you don't make a good first impression to the recruiter, the chances of getting farther along in the process could be slim. Candidates pay recruiters for their services. I was genuinely surprised to see how many times this came up. Perhaps it is the sales-like nature of recruiting that causes candidates to think they will have to pay a recruiter. This couldn't be further from the truth. Recruiters are only paid by the company they are hired by, so if you get contacted by a recruiter, don't worry about having to compensate them. I think that this misconception comes from the fact that recruiters are often paid a percentage of the employee's salary after they make a placement. But keep in mind that this payment is not subtracted from the employee's paycheck. You don't have to worry about sacrificing a segment of your own salary. It is covered by the employer who hired the recruiter for their services. If you're a job seeker and you're ever contacted by a recruiter and asked to pay them for their services, this is a huge red flag. It should not cost you anything as a candidate to engage with the recruiter. Recruiters don't understand specialized industries. While there are certainly plenty of generalized recruiters out there and their job is valuable, don't make the mistake of thinking that a third-party recruiter doesn't understand the job that they're hiring for. In fact, the best recruiters have highly specialized knowledge of their chosen industry and are often a better choice for determining qualifications than a general HR employee or hiring manager. Some recruiters are even veterans of the industry that they're recruiting for and will be able to weed out the unqualified candidates from the qualified ones. If you're concerned that a recruiter doesn't have the knowledge necessary to make informed hiring decisions, try inquiring about their employment history before hiring them. If they have experience in your industry, you can be rest assured that they have all the necessary knowledge you need to make the best hiring decisions possible. Recruiters will push you to accept unwanted offers. Yes, recruiters do have an influence in hiring decisions and may even help their clients determine which candidate is best for the role. But it is ultimately up to you, the job seeker, if you want to accept their offer. Any recruiter that makes you feel pressured into accepting a role is not a good one and should be avoided. The best recruiters know that putting a candidate in a position they're uninterested in will ultimately reflect poorly on them. With that in mind, a good recruiter will not be interested in forcing a candidate through. That said, a less than stellar recruiter may be desperate to make money and want to push a candidate through. If you think this might be the case, you should stop working with the recruiter right away. Recruiters' only goal is to fill roles. Along those same lines, filling a role is only one of the many responsibilities that recruiters have. A recruiter who is exclusively focused on filling roles is only thinking in the short term. Sure, it may be an effective strategy at first, but the faster you fill roles, the harder it is to truly make truly great placements. It's important to slow down, take your time, and make and maintain strong relationships along the way. The best recruiters know that this is the best way to set themselves up for long-term success. In fact, some recruiters focus on connecting and maintaining relationships with companies that have no need for their services yet, because as soon as they do, they'll be able to turn to their trusted recruiter quickly and easily for help. Remember, for the best recruiters that I know, the job is not about making placements, it's about maintaining relationships over time. And with that, we've just about wrapped up today's video. Can you think of any other misconceptions about recruiters that I didn't cover? I'd love to hear from you. Make sure to leave a comment down below. If you like this video and want to see more like it, feel free to support a fellow recruiter. Give us a like, subscribe, click that bell. It really means a lot. Feel free to also follow me at Preston_Park, as I try my best to also post behind the scenes content daily. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one.